Hey guys, what's going on? This is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com, and today we're going to talk about lower back pain and recommendations to fix it. So before we get into that video, please like, subscribe, and comment on the lower back pain that you've had, maybe what exercises you've done to create the problem, or maybe a job requirement like the mechanics that I work for or the fire department guys that I work for. Always interesting to hear these stories from you guys. So please comment those below and then see in the video if we can provide some help for you. According to epidemiological data, up to 80% of the adult population will suffer either temporary or chronic lower back pain at some point in their lives. This is huge, 80%. So we're talking 8 out of 10 people will have this problem. Lower back pain is also the first or second cause of inability to work, only yielding to the flu or other particular things like that. So the lower back is a huge problem. In strength training, lower back issues are half of all the injuries sustained in the gym. This is a huge problem as well. So even if we're in the gym not doing the correct things to help our lower back, we could be causing more harm than good. This is where I'm sometimes against using classical lifts like deadlifts and squats until someone's technique is really good, i.e. getting on online coaching, following tutorials, videoing yourself, having people assess your lift that are better than you. These are all major factors that we find that most people just don't take advantage of. But your technique is highly, highly important to making sure that your lower back is not going to be the issue in training in the gym. So now that we know the lower back is a big problem in normal everyday life and also a problem in athletics in gym facilities, the problem that we still see is that very few facilities have the proper equipment to alleviate this issue. Let's be honest. How many times have we walked into a gym and seen a reverse hyper? Not very many gyms have them that are in the normal residential areas. How many gyms have we walked into and seen a glute ham raise? How many gyms have we walked into and seen a Winning Strength Good Morning machine? How many gyms have we walked into and seen multiple ways to attack hamstrings or glutes? Those tend to be a little bit more common, but oftentimes those muscle groups are not utilized correctly. They're in isolation instead of utilizing them in conjunction with other muscles. Lower back protection is also a huge factor in trying to understand and utilize core bracing and stiffening. So just doing sit-ups in themselves may not be a good way to develop your core to protect your lower back. We need obliques, we need transverse abdominis, and we need the ability to utilize our core muscles when we're standing. For a lot of people, they think core, they lay on the ground and do a lot of different kinds of sit-ups or twisting exercises or whatever. But how many people do you see hurt their back on the ground? Not many. We see people hurt their back standing up. So what we want to do is we want to attack the abdominal area in a standing position. When was the last time you saw an exercise in the gym where people were doing abs standing? The answer is not very many. So what I would like to do is cover some exercises and maybe even some ways to do them with limited equipment that I feel has kept lower back injuries and problems in our facility, in my military's branches, and as well as my fire departments and my auto mechanics. We've kept lower backs down to injuries down to almost zero over the last 17, 18 years. So these are some exercises that I want you guys to get familiar with. If you have the funds, get these particular pieces of equipment. And if not, I'll show you a couple ways to do them without needing the extra stuff. The first one is the reverse hyper. The reverse hyperextension was originally invented overseas and then was patented by Louis Simmons in America. This exercise makes your stomach and your torso fixed on a machine, and then you raise your legs, allowing traction at the end. This machine is really good for hamstring, glute, and most importantly, lower back development. But what most people don't realize is that the reverse hyper is actually working your abs as well. Because as you're raising up, your stomach is trying to push down and you have to flex. Oftentimes when clients don't have strong abs, you get a lot of feedback saying, I can't breathe on this machine. This machine's uncomfortable. etc., etc. Once the core gets really strong, it's not that big of a deal. But normal reverse hypers are amazing, but there's all kinds of ways we can do it. One, we can do it double-legged, which allows both legs to work together. But you'll find that if you are recording yourself or having an advanced coach watch, one of the things we do on assessments is I watch people do the reverse hyper and see which glute is firing and which one is not, which toe is turned out and which one is not. Are they bending their knees and putting the pressure in areas other than their lumbar and sacral spine and upper glutes? If the answer is any of those things, we know we're hiding a weakness with an accessory exercise that the average person is not going to see. The other way we can do reverse hypers is to do them single-legged and separate these particular problems so we can fix left and right imbalances. For many people, left and right imbalances over 10% can be a major cause of lower back pain, i.e. if my lower back on my left side does almost all the work and my right side is lagging, then we're going to have a big problem down the road at one point or another. So having these balance points is huge and something that we follow a lot of on the apps, both on Train Heroic and Patreon, to reduce lower back issues. Now, the reverse hyper is a special piece of equipment that you don't find in all facilities, which sucks because in reality, we should be on this machine at least every other week. So if you're on the apps, you're going to see it a lot. For the people that are on the apps and don't have the reverse hyper, we have a solution. We can actually do reverse hypers with a band tied to the top of a rack or something higher. Now, this isn't going to work exactly the same as a reverse hyper, but it does give us a way to train similar muscle groups. Now, most of the times we can only use so much band that won't pick us up off the ground, but it's a way to do the exercise if we're in a budget or we just don't have the piece of equipment available. The next exercise that you find is fairly common in most gyms, not all gyms, but most gyms, is the 45-degree back extension. Now, for me, the 45-degree back extension can be a viable alternative to doing deadlifting, especially for beginners and intermediates trying to increase volume. It's very similar to a hip extension movement pattern, but because of the angle in which the machine is set, you have far less vertical shear force on the spine. This will allow you to basically keep control of keeping your back tight and straight while bending at the hips without being under any vertebral spinal compression. So although there is some frontal shear to it, it's far easier to stay in a safer position, in my opinion, with a 45-degree back extension. Now, you can do this double-legged in an arm machine at wenningstrength.com. You can go really wide. You can go super narrow. The ability to put your feet in multiple places is very, very high. Now, an advanced way to do this would be to do it single-legged to where your body can utilize only one leg to do the exercise. Now, if you're not prepared for that, it can be a little bit more difficult on your knee. Therefore, we don't do it a ton, but it is a variation that we like to use at wenningstrength.com occasionally. The next exercise that's a little bit more common than a reverse hyper and a little bit probably less common than a 45-degree back extension is a glute ham raise machine. This machine is developing the hamstrings, the glutes, and the lower back, pretty much the entire posterior chain. But it's doing it in a situation where there's not a lot of vertebral spinal compression and putting a lot of pressure on the posterior chain, especially the hamstrings. Now, hamstrings are a heavy correlation into lower back issues. For me personally, and a lot of the clients that I train, we try to get the glute ham raise up to at least 3 to 5 strict reps before we introduce squatting and deadlifting. This ensures the posterior chain is up to par with what the anterior chain can produce force-wise. For a lot of people, if you have a weak GHR, it's going to be poor technical form on squats, hard to teach deadlifting, and other exercises that are ground-based from the floor. So what I like to do is make sure that your GHRs are super, super strong. Now, if you don't have a GHR, don't panic. It's not the end of the world. You have something called a Nordic curl. Now, you're going to need a way to hold your feet down, either with a partner or an apparatus. This will allow you to get similar results to a GHR, just without the back extension part. So it's going to be a little bit less back and almost all hamstring. But it is a way to do it with minimal equipment. The last exercise that I want to talk about, and we do a lot on our apps in the gym and with a lot of my clients, is just the standing band crunch. The standing band crunch is a great way to train your abs in a standing position and teaches you how to brace in your core for squatting and deadlifting or anything compressive in the future. For a lot of my mechanics and firemen, they're carrying heavy equipment and heavy tools on a daily basis, oftentimes for many hours. So being able to brace and use their core correctly is a huge protector in the lower back. And I find that this exercise really helps learn how to turn that on. So I hope this video has helped you guys out a bunch. Please go and support wenningstrength.com. If you have any questions on how to fix this in to your normal workouts or follow the workouts that we're doing, please go on to Patreon, subscribe there. I try to answer questions about every 2 to 3 hours. So see you soon, and I'll talk to you guys later.